Welcome to Capture the World with Dee. Interviews with companies and individuals to learn more about digitally capturing the built world. Video, drone, 3D tours, pictures, panoramas, and more. And now your host, a social influencer and community activist, Dee Johnson.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Capture the World with Dee. I'm your host, Dee Johnson. My guest today is the CEO and Chief Photographer at Hopscotch Interactive, a real estate media agency in the San Francisco Bay Area. She is a longtime XR for real estate evangelist and was an early adopter of 3D scanning for real estate using Matterport. She co-founded SpatialFirst, an augmented reality app for exploring commercial spaces in XR, and she's a member of the Commercial Real Estate Professionals Network for Entertainment hosted by Europark in Rust, Germany. The bottom line is she's very experienced and very knowledgeable, and she's a pioneer in the field of 3D scanning. Today we're going to talk about her new product, Talking Walls. So without further ado, please help me welcome Emily Olman. Good morning, Emily. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Dee. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. It's so good to see you again.
Yes, as I was telling you, it's like I put real clothes on once every 2 weeks.
Well, it's absolutely fantastic to see you again, and it seems like you've been doing very well. So thanks for having me on the show.
Of course, I'm excited to have you. So, given how famous you are, you probably don't need much of an introduction, but let's start out by telling the world about Emily Olman, sort of your background and what you're doing now.
Okay, well, I am Emily Olman. I am the CEO and Chief Photographer, as you mentioned, at Hopscotch Interactive. And Hopscotch Interactive is a real estate marketing agency that I founded in the East Bay, so in the San Francisco Bay Area, in 2015. And I did that when I was, I had been working at a startup. We were working on some real estate technology, and I branched off from there, especially because I was very interested in the 3D and 360 photography. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to 2021, and Hopscotch Interactive is now a leading agency for creating, whether it's virtual tours or it's photography or it's augmented reality campaigns, ways to engage the audience. And really, fundamentally, it's about storytelling. And when I started the company, I was initially, very, very interested in virtual reality and augmented reality, and I still am. And so that's really the future that we are building towards and trying to bring everyone along with us. And also, you mentioned SpatialFirst, which is a startup that I co-founded a couple of years ago, which sort of builds on the bleeding edge of that technology, which is mobile augmented reality for real estate.
Yep. Cool. So let's talk about Talking Walls. Can you tell us what it is?
Yes, I can tell you what it is. And I also have a little trailer that I can show, but I'll give you a little backstory about what Talking Walls is and sort of the idea and how it came about. So Talking Walls is right now we've shot a pilot for a new show that is dedicated to storytelling using augmented reality and virtual reality to talk about the past, present, and future of buildings. So we're really, instead of just talking about the industry as a whole, we're specifically making the building the star of the show. Mm-hmm. And so, we're very fortunate in the Bay Area to live in a place where we have buildings that have had many lives. They are historic buildings. They are now maybe commercial spaces. Maybe they were co-working spaces for a while, but maybe they have an interesting background that we don't know about. And the idea that I had was really coming out of what I saw was a great pain with my, commercial real estate community here in the Bay Area and around the country, which was during COVID. A lot of people retreated from office spaces and were not using those office spaces. Yeah. And I felt like traditional marketing was going to do a lot, and everybody moved towards using virtual tours extensively for the first time. But I felt like there was something missing. I felt like it was a little cookie cutter, and it was a little bit like, how are we going to tell the actual story about this place? And I felt like in the age of social media, when people are craving connection and they're craving actual meaning, I felt like a very compelling and interesting way to approach especially commercial real estate marketing was to focus on the story, and the story of that property. And it's funny because some landlords want to talk about the past, and then some don't. Some just want to talk about the future. What's been great though is that I've had some luck with some local building owners and operators who are very much embracing this type of storytelling. And so I launched Talking Walls in April this year, and that's what we're doing. So let me get a trailer playing here in a second, and let's see, and I can play that for you. So it looks like my screen share is enabled, and I am going to, let's see, get this ready. Okay, here we go. Let's see if this works. Almost.
Yeah.
And I'm the CEO of Hopscotch Interactive. And today we're going to the Broadway in downtown Oakland so we can take a tour of this historic property in the heart of Oakland. And we're going to meet with Anthony Shell, who is a principal broker at Avison Young. Let's dive inside.
On one hand, you have this gorgeous old school truss apartment, which is part of the original build out of the building. This was a large bank building, like in its first iteration. Ownership of plans to do a speakeasy, as you were aware of back here at some point.
Yeah.
And retail reopens and whatnot. So this will be a speakeasy at some point. Once again, combining past meets present, old meets new. We were in the process of looking for a speakeasy operator.
Did you think that there was a speakeasy here
There may have been a speakeasy.
back in the day?
I know that there were dance parties thrown here a long time ago for sure. So yeah, we'll see what new form this takes.
Look at this, like you're walking through the vault. I love that. So this is the trailer to the pilot episode of Talking Walls. And so we just watched about a minute of it. The very first episode runs, and I can stop sharing screen, and I stopped, right?
Yeah.
And so, so this is the first episode. It runs under 10 minutes. And the idea is to, as you saw in the visuals, is to use augmented reality in a way where you're not necessarily feeling that you have to load an app or have some sort of friction in order to enjoy the storytelling capabilities of augmented reality. And so what you were seeing was a combination of a few different technologies, and one of those is the PlaceTime app that we built at SpatialFirst. SpatialFirst's PlaceTime app was created to make a mobile, basically a interactive mobile application for buildings that you could, go to and then go into and drop into different levels. And it was built for Oakland. So it was like this perfect combination of, look, we have historic buildings like 1212 Broadway. We have a mobile augmented reality app. There's incredible stories to tell. And so let's bring that all together into something that's easily consumable. And that right now is video, right? So it's interesting because it utilizes all these technologies, but does so in a way that is actually kind of passive, but I think that's okay.
So is the user able to use the app, the PlaceTime app, and actually visit the building themselves, or is it just the video?
Yeah, they can go into the PlaceTime app as well and explore the buildings. So it's right now we still are sort of in this beta version of the app, and so we have to we have a waiting list for that. And so right now it's more like we can send you augmented reality clips that you can play on your phone, so you can explore the bank vault in augmented reality, and then eventually you'll be able to explore the whole app itself. And that is a pretty spectacular thing, because it's not easy to build an augmented reality application based on a map, and then having all of that bandwidth load quickly in real time on a phone. And so it was a very big undertaking. So yeah, but if they want to explore the bank vault itself, absolutely.
So you actually scan that bank using Matterport, right?
We did both. So we did a Matterport scan. So what came together in that video was a few different things. So it was Matterport, and it was also traditional, or I wouldn't say necessarily traditional, but LiDAR scanning from iPad. And so with the 2020 iPad, we were able to scan the bank, take that, put it into a USDZ format, and then be able to use, visualize that and use that in augmented reality. So right now, there are still quite a few hoops that people have to jump through in order to get that content, viewable in AR. And so, that's really the service that SpatialFirst is providing, is doing we do the capture, and then with SpatialFirst, then we can do the conversions, and then we can give you that final product so that you can share something in augmented reality. And with this, with this particular building, I also wanted to show some historical documents and some historical footage, because I really think that is part of the story as well. And so, that interactivity is also the kind of thing that you can do with augmented reality, with, looking at something on a mobile phone or a tablet, and then clicking on it and spinning it around, just to kind of let that person experience the place wherever they are. And that's the other thing about augmented reality, is that if you, for example, do a Matterport scan, a lot of people don't know that you can actually walk that. You could, if you got the 3D data, you could walk that space in augmented reality in your living room, for example. And so that's sort of the workflow that is I think challenging to somebody who doesn't have advanced knowledge of the system. So we tried, and we're able to make that into something that is more packaged up, more easy to experience. But then, of course, I wanted to take it one step further, which was, well, yeah, you can do that, but why do you do it? And what's the story you're trying to tell? And so I think that having properties like the Broadway, where there's a really interesting past and present and future, then that's one of the things that I think is a compelling use case for AR.
So there's, from what I understand, there's two components. There's the actual 3D scan, right, which is what the building looks like currently. And then the augmented part is where you show, on top of the scanned image, you show what it could look like. Is that right?
Yeah, you can show what it could look like, or you can do augmented. You can also just use reality capture and the existing built environment as your augmented reality object. That's also possible, because you're scanning something that exists already. But as we know, in the digital world, anything is possible, right? So if that becomes your canvas, is this object that you scanned, or this space that you scanned, then the addition of additional information or content to that is possible, because it was already created in 3D. So yeah, that's sort of the thing that enables all of this is the 3D, or the LiDAR, for example, as one of the ways to capture something in 3D.
That's so cool, because then you could have a building that you've captured in current time in 3D. And if you have old data or old pictures, you could show what the building used to look like, right? And then you can also show what the building is going to look like, because that bank was super interesting, how it had the vaulted doors. And
yes, exactly. Dee, you nailed it. That's the thing, is that right now, and this gets a little bit philosophical, but right now we sort of exist in this world where we walk into a physical place like that commercial real estate office, or that office building, and all we see is what's there, and we don't see the history, and we don't even really see the future. Like, our eyes just tell us that one story. But what augmented reality, enables, and this is the thing that I'm very excited about, is that, you can think of it as almost like leaving a note somewhere. Well, you can leave a digital note somewhere as well. And that was the vision, and is the vision, of course, of SpatialFirst, that like eventually I will be able to connect content with location. And we see that a little bit already with things like augmented reality in Google Maps, or, if you go and I just got an AirTag for my, from Apple, where you can find your keys or your wallet. Well, if you have a current generation of phone, what's really cool is that, you can use augmented reality to locate that. And so I think that the connection right now is where people, they're not totally familiar with this, because I think it's still sort of, it's hiding in plain sight. And that's the thing, is that augmented reality will enable that, where, digital information and place are connected. So yeah, we're sort of showing what the future could be, not only with that building, but also the way that we market spaces.
Yeah. So this is taking it one step further, and you can get all this without even having to leave your home.
Yeah. Absolutely.
which we all get really good at this past year.
It's so true. And I mean, I feel like, the thing that always interested me in this is, whether it's Matterport or it's other systems or it's photogrammetry, I was very much taken by this notion of place shifting. And so talking walls is, for me, just an evolution of something that I've always really been interested in, which is this idea of, I can record something on TV and look at it later. Well, why can't I record a place and visit it later? Or why can't I share that with someone? Why can't I visit a place remotely? And so virtual reality, of course, has been doing this for a long time, but I feel like as it applies to the real estate industry or to the built environment, we're still kind of in the early days, because it's not being widely used, although these tools have been at our fingertips for quite some time. When I first started Hopscotch Interactive in the fall of 2015, just about a month after that, they announced that, for example, Matterport spaces could be viewed on a Gear VR. I mean, that's a long time ago in VR hardware, but by combining a phone and a next generation device, a standalone device, you could be immersed into a space, and that was so compelling for me on so many levels. As a person who loves to travel, or loves to see the world, or loves to just, download that information, and feel like it's something that I've experienced personally. I feel like, that was sort of an aha moment for me, was the ability to then, create this kind of content and, and use it to hopefully help people with whatever story they're trying to tell.
So is Talking Walls going to be solely in the Bay Area? Or are you intending on sort of expanding on that?
Yeah, I think for now we're going to focus on the Bay Area, and I think that is, in one part, I feel like, we're still in this opening up phase, and people are getting back to work, and so, in fact, there's so many people that may be kind of learning about their office building for the first time. There's a lot of people that were hired that have never met their team in person, or have never been to their office. And I feel like, going to landlords or going to historic properties, there's some really interesting historic landmarks and hotels that I'm interested in. There's new construction that I'm very interested in. And so we're in the process of talking to landlords right now about, using their property, and hopefully, being able to do that at little or no cost to them. So we would be, featuring different technology in the show, not just the things you saw in the trailer, but, exploring other types of bleeding edge technology, because, that would offset some of the costs of production.
Yeah, there's so many wonderful historic places here, but also in the entire U.S. So it'd be super cool if I can totally see you doing this all over the U.S.
I mean, why not? Yeah, I hope that when we do it, I hope that when we do our next episode and put that out, that it's like all the things we learned from doing the first episode, that we will only get better and better. And absolutely, you're right. I mean, and if people have suggestions for buildings, or they know building owners, that would be a way that they could get involved, or that they could help, because building owners are the ones that they have the properties and they know the stories. And so, of course they could book a marketing video, but I promise you that like that video is going to be something that is probably, super slick, and it's going to look like everybody else's video. And so this is something really unique. And I think also having a host, whether it's me or whether it's somebody else who's really knowledgeable about the space, I think that is going to give, it's going to give them something really special, that will hopefully attract more people to that building. Because, I mean, where would you want to work? Would you want to work in the building that's going to have, or that had the speakeasy, or like in the one that doesn't? It's like, there's this thing called an amenities arms race in commercial real estate, where people are like, we have to have a bigger gym, and we have to have a better roof deck, and we have to have, a cooler cafe. And I would argue that while all of that is true, I think a lot of times people are just looking to have like something special and unique, because at the end of the day, how do you differentiate those really high end spaces? Like, what differentiates it? And I think story. I think that having a story to tell about, why you did it, what it used to be, how cool it is, and of course the location, that wraps up for me into a very interesting package about properties.
Yeah, sure. Wouldn't it have been cool if before the Notre Dame burned down, so you could do that for before, if you had scanned it, and then after, like, and then show like what is it going to look like when it's renovated or rebuilt, and then what it actually looks like when it's done. That would be so amazing.
So amazing. And I hope that, if you look at it that way, I mean, it's like, there's this like time lapse metaphor, right? And I love time lapse photography. I think time lapse is like this, maybe underrated, but very, very interesting thing. And I love to make time lapse videos. But one of the things that's cool about time lapse is watching things forward and then watching them backwards. It's like, it's very cool to do both. And I think that, that's this sort of continuum that I'm interested in about the property. And Notre Dame, I mean, think about how many places, and think of even residential, I think residential suffers as well from sort of being hard to differentiate, and, being able to talk about, the different, like, where's the timber from, or, specific concepts that the architect used. And I think that diving deeper into that, it is ultimately what creates connection, because you're getting something that you otherwise would have overlooked, and you just wouldn't have even known about it. So it's like, there's a lot of parallels between this and, I guess, being a historian or a docent. But for me, like, the minute I started talking to my clients about it, like, they were like, oh yeah, this used to be like the first printing press in the East Bay, or like, this is where the longshoremen used to come and have their lunches, or like, all of these stories start to come out as soon as you kind of ask about properties, specifically like Jack London Square, downtown Oakland, all of the financial district in San Francisco, and I think that is that's something that folks, I hope and I think, will be connecting to and excited to learn about.
Yeah, so there's a lot of buildings in this Bay Area.
Yeah, right. So like the local. I mean, then think about New York. Think about
Boston,
New Orleans.
Yeah,
and they have a lot of shows that are longer format and that are really dedicated to residential real estate like this. But not really so much for commercial real estate. And again, like, I love the industry. I think the industry is amazing. But for me, I think the buildings themselves are that sort of key element. That is the focal point for me. And again, we can tell the story about, who the owners are. For example, like in this example, so we partnered with PlaceTime, we partnered with Avison Young, Anthony Shell, who's a principal broker there. We partnered with the ownership of the building, the Husseini family. So that was absolutely the thing, is like all of the stakeholders were excited about it and invested in seeing in sort of like saying, yeah, like let's see what happens when we do this. And so yeah, I'm optimistic that there will be more shows, and that there will be many stories to tell.
Yeah, that one place that we looked at, the heavy pocket door to enter into the room was...
Oh my gosh.
Watching you push that door open.
Yeah, like Anthony's like, ah. Yeah, no, it's true. And there's pool tables down there, and there's also, if you continue to watch that episode, what you learn is that I think that the approach that Anthony has and the leasing team has to that is like, hey, we don't know what the best use for this space is, especially downstairs. I mean, they want to do speakeasy in the vault, but in the adjacent space, they're hoping that the community actually brings forth the best use for that space. And in this sort of post-pandemic world that we're imagining, that's an interesting and important moment in time where we get to reshape the use of our cities. Yep. And how do we go back to work? And so those questions are, I think, open still.
Yep.
For people to be asking and to be looking for the answers. And so I think that the more that we can, facilitate those conversations, I think the better.
Yeah. I could totally see that place being an area where the community gathers, like socially.
Right.
People are craving that right now. They want to go out and they want to be around people. So that, yeah.
We have had, we've had an incredible year, and because it's really sort of tested us in so many ways.
Yep.
And then people are really wanting to get back to socializing and to connecting. And so, any experience, even if it's an augmented experience, is going to be something new and interesting. As well as, this, I think there's still like some timidness around going back to work.
Yeah.
And people are still maybe like, oh, like remind me again, like why I need to, what is there for me to do there that I can't do in my pajamas at home? and so, having a chance to kind of shine a light on those things, I think is a unique moment in time right now. But as Talking Walls progresses, and as Talking Walls evolves and more people get involved, I think that it's going to be offering that conversation. And I also wanted to mention the director, Kevin Coons, who's a media producer at Hopscotch Interactive, is an award-winning 360 filmmaker. So we've just scratched the surface on the ways that we can tell these stories, and the ways that we can combine the technology like augmented reality and virtual reality to begin to tell the stories. So, I wanted to start with something that was pretty easy to digest, was pretty like you might not have even realized that you were looking at augmented reality, because some of it has like a green screen effect. For example, in the very first scene, I'm standing in an augmented reality 3D map of downtown Oakland. Now that was basically done on an iPad and screen recorded while I was standing in the building with nothing behind me. So we used augmented reality as a green screen, just with a tablet. And so those are the things that it's like, did that, was that free to use software, or was that, and it's like, well, I mean, we built the app so that, SpatialFirst built the app so that was possible. But I think that content like this you will start to see more people hopefully utilizing it, because once they learn and kind of get the hang of it, I think they'll realize, wow, like it's in some ways it's like just like putting a background on Zoom, and people get that now, but they're not using it in video, and people aren't using it in commercial real estate, or they think that it has to be like $1 million production to do the Mandalorian, and that's just not the case. So I would also say making impact at an efficient price point, so that it is something that can truly be community driven, is what really interests me.
Yeah, that's very cool. So we will include the links to both that trailer, and so when is the next episode coming up?
So the next episode should be coming out late summer, so probably July, August, and then we'll hopefully be hitting a better cadence in the fall, as we move in. I already know which building we'll be doing next, so we have it on our radar, but we're working on a bunch of other media production at the moment. But as soon as we are going to have that trailer ready, I will share it with you, Dee, and make sure that it's that it comes straight to you.
Yeah, cool. So we'll add those links in the comments section.
Yeah.
So cool. So check out the trailer. It's very cool. This whole project that you're working on is very cutting edge. As always, you're the pioneer in all of this stuff. So
thanks, Dee.
And a great storyteller. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. I've learned a lot. I hope everyone watching has too. I hope you guys all have a wonderful 4th of July, and I will see you in 2 weeks from now. Thank you, Emily.
In 2 weeks, we'll be
Oh,
chatting
yes.
again.
Yes. So Emily will be back in 2 weeks. You should watch that, because she'll be talking about how to grow a real estate photography business. Right?
That's right.
She's super knowledgeable, super experienced, and she's got lots of tips and tricks and a lot of knowledge to give you. She'll be amazing, right? I know you will.
I'm just looking forward to sharing with other people who are interested in starting a real estate photography business or real estate marketing business, some of the things that can help make them more successful, and talk to them about some of the areas of research that they should be getting into, because I've spent more than 5 years building Hopscotch Interactive, getting to meet amazing superstars like you, Dee, and so I'm thrilled to be able to come back and to share some of that knowledge that I gained, and hopefully it can help some people out.
Oh yeah, you're like a walking encyclopedia. She's amazing. Anyway, so tune in, same time 2 weeks from now. I'll see you then. Everybody take care, and thanks for joining us today on Capture the World with Dee. Bye-bye.
Bye.